Hey Dreamers, welcome to another episode of Dreamer Talks. I am your host, Trevon Gross Jr. This episode is brought to you by Craft Your Dream Inc., presented by Craft Your Dream Inc. This is episode 3. I am joined here by Fritz Bondoa. He is the special assistant to the CEO of the Robinhood Foundation, not to be confused with the app with all the stocks and money and things like that. He's not doing people dirty out
That's
here.
That's true.
But we're so happy to have you, Fritz.
Thanks, brother. Thanks for having me. Even before we start, just full disclosure, we went to the same high school.
Facts.
Not only we went to the same high school, we also went to the same college. We went to UVA together. And I think I just want to take a minute to just shout you out, because I think the work that you're doing with this platform, with Craft Your Dream, is truly amazing. And I think with so much negativity that we have around the world and in this country, the fact that you're using your platform to uplift people and help people live out their best lives, I think it's truly remarkable. I think so. Kudos to you for doing that.
No, I appreciate it, man. And honestly, I mean, with everything that we do here, it's fueled by people like you. So, you know, I'm appreciative of you taking time out of your busy schedule. You know what I'm saying?
Of course.
It took a while for us to coordinate all of this, but man, I want to get started with just tell me, what's your definition of success?
Wow, I think that's a really great question. And I think for me, success is your ability to use all the talent that God has given you in whatever activity, mission, task that you're doing. I think in today's society, we focus too much on outcomes. For example, we focus too much on whether you got the degree or not, whether you won or lost, or how much money you make, which job you have, and the role and your position. And I think those things are important, and saying that they're not important is just like engaging in intellectual dishonesty. But I think the most important thing for me when I judge success is whether you have used all the talents that you've been given to better yourself and better the lives of others. And I think because things like position and money, some of those are like sort of out of your control, right?
Absolutely.
But your ability to use your talent, that's in your control. So
let me ask you this, right? So I hear you using the word talent, ability, and mission. What is your talent and what's your mission?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a good question. I think in terms of my talent, I think I am good at interacting with people. I think I'm a people's person.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think one of my goals in life is to help people. Is to make sure that people have the resources that they need to live their God-given potential. And I think that's my mission. I think that's my talent, helping people.
Yeah. Okay. So let me ask you, how do you do that? How do you execute your mission right now? Obviously, I know. Tell me a little bit what Robinhood, what you do.
Yeah. So currently, I'm the special assistant at the Robinhood Foundation, and I have to say, I think I have the best job in the world because the Robinhood Foundation, we are New York City's largest poverty fighting organization. Think about that for a second. Really I wake up every morning fighting poverty.
Yeah.
And we, in our 30-year history, we've given out over $3 billion to nonprofit direct services organization in New York City that are truly doing the work. And so for me, that's my mission, right? That's my part. I'm doing my part in terms of bettering the lives of others, and to think about this for a second. We've given out $3 billion in 30 years. Think about all the lives that we've impacted. Think about the families that we've impacted, the generations that we still have a lot of work to do, right?
Absolutely. But I think even in that, right, like with those numbers, right, we talk about it's easy to scale things and measure things with financials, but that's what's real. Like where you bring up like how many lives I'm certain you guys have saved, right? The lives that you have improved and everything like that.
And just to give you a sense, and the thing that's so remarkable about Robinhood is that when New York City needed Robinhood the most, Robinhood has always had the back of New Yorkers.
Yeah.
Whether it's after, so for example, when the pandemic happened, we activated our third relief fund. And that was only the third time in our history that we've done that. And the other two times was after 9/11, was after Hurricane Sandy.
Okay, yeah.
And for this COVID-19 relief fund, we raised over $88 million. And a lot of that money was direct cash assistance to people. So we give people money.
You know what's going where.
It's going directly to
and I think even that, right? Like,
think about that for a second.
There's so many, when these, I don't want to say tragedies, but when these events occur, right, there's always these funds that donate to, help us. And it's like, a lot of people, these people that pay attention, people that donate, never really ask, like, well, where's the money really going? And I think for you guys, for, everyone to know, okay, we're only giving this money to places where it's direct. Like, we know where that money's going, and we know it's really going to impact lives. Like, that's major.
Yeah, no, I think, and people really needed that money. During the pandemic, so we give to organizations who were giving money directly to people. So I think so when I wake up in the morning, and I'm fighting poverty, I think that's what gets me excited. That's what gets my creative juices flowing.
That's awesome. So tell me a little bit of background. So you know that your mission is in helping people. Your mission right now is you are literally fighting poverty every single day. How did you get here?
Oh yeah, it's a long road here, but I think so. I was born in Cameroon. Okay, my parents were born in Cameroon. Cameroon is a country in Central Africa, and we border Nigeria and Chad. It's a country beautiful country with so much potential, truly, but because of government corruption and authoritarian regime. So, for example, just to give you a sense, the president who's still president was president when I was there, was president when my parents were young.
So he's been around.
So I think next year, if I'm not mistaken, it'll be 40 years in the presidency. Just think about that.
That's different.
And I mean, just absolute corruption. And just to give you a sense of how bad it had gotten for my parents, my mom was a civil servant. She worked in the government. She would work 2, 3, 4 months at a time and not get a paycheck.
What?
They
not get a check for working that long?
Only because the money was not there. Why was the money not there? Government corruption. Right. Like these were fat cats, government officials who were
just taking up all the wealth, taking the money, everything.
Taking the money. So when my dad was running a small business, he was also struggling, right? Because there's no economics in it. There's no economic development across the country.
Right. The government's just taking it.
Just taking it, looking out for themselves. So I think at some point my dad realized that if we stay there, the outcomes for his kids, education outcomes, economic mobility, just won't be there.
Well, clearly made the right decision.
And I thank God every day for that decision. And he decided I think in 1993, when I was 3 months old, my dad sort of won what I call the lottery of life, getting a visa to the US. And so he moved over to the US when I was 3 months old. And my mom and my brothers rejoined my father in 1997. I was 4 months old, so just to give you guys a timeline. And I was supposed to come with them. But for whatever reason, the immigration system, my visa was denied. So I ended up staying 4 additional years. So just to give you a sense, I came to the U.S. in 2001. And when I arrived at JFK Airport, that was the first time I met my dad. And I had no idea.
Right, I was saying because you were young.
I was 3 months old when he left. Right. And for all intents and purposes, that was the first time I met my mom and my brothers, because they left when I was 4 years old. Right. And I think those experiences taught me 2 things. One, who we elect and who our public servants are matter. Right. Absolutely. They absolutely matter because when I look at my life here in the U.S. and what my family has been able to accomplish in just not first generation, and not saying that we have a perfect life, But when I look at the opportunities that we've gotten compared to the opportunities that my cousins back home and friends that I left back home have not gotten, there's a stark difference.
Right.
And it's not because we're smarter. I'm smarter. Just because of opportunity.
Yeah.
Because government in Cameroon didn't do its job. So for me, that's one lesson. It's important. Those who realize. 2, poverty. I wouldn't wish poverty on my worst enemy, because poverty robs people of their dignity.
Yeah.
Poverty robs people of their voice. Poverty robs people of their hopes and dreams.
Right.
And poverty, on top of that, poverty forces families to make unbelievable decisions or sacrifices. Yeah. Think about this. The decision my mom had to make to leave me, because when her visa and my brother's visa came out in '97 when I was 4, my mom had said, she told my dad, I can't come. This is the baby. He's the last one. He's 4 years old.
Right.
Have the other 2, they can come and I'll come back later. And my dad was like, that's not how the system works. When you get your visa, you do it, because you just don't know when the U.S.
is going to be on.
Going to give you a visa again. So my mom had to make the decision, leave my baby and risk not getting a visa again, or come to the U.S. and hope to God that he gets a visa at some point. Comes to Georgia.
That's a crazy.
So those are the decisions that poor families, not in the U.S., across the world, are making every day.
And I think even when you talk about poverty, what's never really talked about poverty, like poverty to some people is just, okay, we might have to skip a meal, you might have to go to sleep hungry, things like that. No one ever really talks about the dignity piece.
Oh yeah.
Thinking about just the decisions, like the real decisions that have to be made, right? Like they always think poverty is just, well, I have to get food or put gas in the car, where it's, like where you're describing, where it's like either I go over to the U.S. and hope my child gets a visa, or I stay back and who knows when that visa is going to come through.
It truly robs people of their hopes, their dreams, their dignity, and truly, it just renders you voiceless.
Right.
And I'm telling you, I can draw a line from poor education outcome, poor health outcomes, crime, violence. I can draw that line right through poverty.
Right. And to even big you up, like you said, you arrived here in 2001, which only 20 years ago. And I think when you look at all that you've been able to accomplish, that's incredible. Bro, like, that's incredible.
Thank you.
Like educated, obviously, St. Ben's, UVA. You did your master's at Brown.
Yep.
Like, that's high level. There are people that are born here that don't do that. Like, tell me, how does that feel? Like, do you ever think about that?
So I think when you're like us, like type A personalities, and we're really going at it, you don't get a chance to just sit back and think through all the things that you've done. But I mean, it's truly remarkable, and I give a lot of thanks to my dad. I give a lot of thanks to my dad, because my dad didn't finish high school, but he is one of the smartest people I've met, and he is a man who had a vision for his family, his kids, and he pushed us. He said, "Kids, I'm coming to America. I'm sacrificing everything. Like people I know back home, my home life back home, my friends, my family, everything." My dad came here, had to learn a new language. Right, because in Cameroon we're from the French-speaking part, right?
Okay, yeah.
Learn a new language. I'm just completely had to start from scratch. Like we're the first people in our family in the U.S. Not like it's not like my father came here. There were like cousins here or an uncle. Like literally
he's by himself.
Like he just met. There was just a friend of a friend of a friend that lived here, and then my dad was like, just literally when he came, that was the person he was supposed to meet. So it was my dad who instilled in us that you have to get educated.
Yeah.
Because he said, because my dad, and I know he feels this way, if he had gotten an education, I think my dad would be one of the most successful people.
Yeah.
So smart. And again, that's what happens when government doesn't take care of its people.
Right.
Because who knows who my dad could have been, could have become. Who just knows? And there's so many kids across, not only in this country, but across the world. Right. So my dad instilled education, and I have a funny story about when you talked about I went to UV, I went to Brown, I got to do all these things. Funny story. So my dad, his job, he was a limousine driver. He's a black car service driver.
Okay.
And so the way, like America's a pretty complicated country. Like to understand how this country, it's a pretty complicated country.
For sure.
So we were the first people in our families to be here, and my dad had no idea how the system worked, right? So and the reason I'm telling you this story is because it reminds me that no one gets anywhere alone.
That's a fact.
There's no such thing as like, I'm going to pull myself up by my bootstrap. That's not true. And the reason I say that is because of my dad's job, he used to pick up all these Wall Street executives, corporate lawyers in New York City. Yeah, that's what his job was. He was a black car service driver, so his job was to drive around executives in New York City. And it was through these people that we got what I call social capital. And it was through these people, because my dad would be like, how did you end up becoming a corporate lawyer? How did you end up becoming an accountant? How did you end up becoming?
So he was asking them questions.
And they would answer. They would write these things down. They were like, you should go to I'm in private equity. I'm in investment banking. I went to Brown. I went to UVA. So my dad would go home and he's like saying, yo, y'all about to go here. Y'all about to go here.
You gotta go do this. Y'all gonna learn this.
Literally, that's how we figured it out.
That's crazy. That's
how we because there's no way we would have known. Right. There's no way you would know these things.
Right, because literally in my mind I was thinking like, well, how did you arrive at UVA Brown and that? But
it was that. My dad was asking questions. They were answering questions. He was taking notes down. He'll be like, these people went to these schools. Right. I'm not sure if they still do it. Like my dad bought the U.S. World Ranking college books. Yeah. And my dad would bring it home. He'd be like, circle these schools. Like all these people went to these schools, and these are the schools. And it was great.
I think so. It sounds like your dad really, kind of to what you said, he put it all on the line coming over here. And not only that he put it all on the line, he put it all on the line for you all, for you and your brothers, and just your family. How often do you think about that? Like I know, like even in here you speak, like does that run through your mind often?
It's crazy to think the decisions that he had to. It's crazy to think the decision that he had to make and made. Like sometimes I'm sitting at home and I'm complaining about I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't believe my job is this long. I can't believe I have another assignment. But I can't fathom how you leave an entire country that you've known your whole life to move to another country, different language, different culture, different people. Yeah, and you know nobody there, and you're hoping that things work out. So anything I accomplish is nothing compared to the sacrifices and the decisions he made and the work that he did to get us here. And I also have to shout out my mom. Phenomenal person.
No, absolutely. So let me ask you this, right? So with your dad making all these sacrifices, now in terms of when you operate in your own life, right? When you're operating as a special assistant at Robinhood and just any other endeavors that you're in, what are like some key things that just kind of that your dad is like, okay, like my dad did this. Like what are like the empowering things that you kind of like, okay, this is what I'm going to operate with since my dad kind of laid the foundation?
Integrity. One thing, when we were younger, my dad always said, my dad always said, I can accept all character flaws from you. The one thing I will not accept in my house is someone who lies. He said, you can be anything.
Yeah, just not a lie.
You can't lie.
Yeah.
He said, because if you lie, I can't trust you. And if you lie, people can't trust you. So it was integrity. Was like so when I'm at work, when anything I'm doing, it's integrity. I'm not cheating my work. I'm not cheating my colleagues. I'm not cheating the people I'm supposed to serve. right? And I think, and that goes back to my definition of success.
Yes.
Right? Using every ounce of talent that you have in every task. Right. That's why I admire Kobe Bryant so much, because he just left it out there.
Absolutely.
Like, just never cheated the fan. So that's one. That's one. Right. Integrity.
Integrity. Yeah.
I think the second thing is discipline. You don't have discipline, you can't get anything done. Right. Just discipline. And my father used to say, once you set your mind to do something, see it through, and do the things that you need to do to make it happen. Forget the results. The results will happen. Now, it may be, you may get good results, you may get bad results, but have discipline. Yeah. Have discipline in your life. Another thing, have vision in your life.
That's a big one. A lot of people, that's a big one.
Know what you want to do. Like, just don't live life to live life. Like, what's your purpose? Try to figure out what your purpose is.
Right, and do it actively.
Yeah. So those are the things.
I think what's really cool is the fact that with your background, right, with your family, with your dad making these sacrifices, and even you, the life you've built, right, in 20 years' time, which is still just mind-blowing to me, right, that you are literally working hand-to-hand in what, you know what I'm saying, what your mission is, what your purpose is at Robinhood. Like,
but interestingly enough, I didn't, it wasn't always this easy, or you know this story, but I'm going to talk about this story right now. At some point in my life, I sort of went off track for my mission.
Okay.
Because I wanted to pursue money.
Yeah, you need it though. But
I wanted to pursue money, and I had finished grad school. I spent about 2 years in Governor Cuomo's office.
Okay.
And I said, you know what? I want to go pursue money. I want to go to the private sector. And that was the worst decision I ever made, because I left the governor's office and I went to work for a consulting firm in DC. And when you go to the places that we, like UVA, everybody, you either going, after graduation, you're either going to DC to do consulting, or you're going to New York to do banking. Yeah. And so much of how we judge success from college is like the job you have, the money, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And for whatever reason, I fell into that trap. I went to do consulting, and it was the worst 2 years of my professional career. I'm not sure if this is a clinical term, but I was professionally depressed. Yeah. Because I woke up every morning doing something I didn't care. Right. And I told myself, I was like, if I get out of here, I would never make that decision again. I would never pursue money, and I would never do something that is not mission driven. And I've never done it since. So tell me a little bit about that time. Like, was there a moment when you knew that you were professionally depressed? Like, was there a moment where it's like you just kind of woke up one day and you're just like, this ain't it? Like, or was this just 2 moments? I was in meetings, not caring about what was being talked about. I just didn't care. Yeah. Like, my mind, I was in meetings thinking about public policy issues. That's when you know. Yeah. Like, I'm doing the wrong thing. Like, right? I was in a meeting thinking about public policy issues. And a second thing, I wasn't good at it.
That'll do it.
Like, I just wasn't good. I just was not a very good consultant. I just wasn't good. Not because I didn't have the skills, but because that's not what I'm supposed to be doing. Yeah. And I think that's the trap a lot of people fall into. Absolutely. And my thing is, if you're doing something that you're not supposed to be doing,
right, you're not going to be like a high level performer.
You're not going to be a high level performer because that's not who you're supposed to be. Right. So that's when I knew. I was like, time for me to get out of here.
Yeah. So let me ask you. So you make that decision, right? That I got to get up out of here. You leave, right? How does Robinhood come in the mix?
Yes. So I left the consulting firm, and I moved back to New York City, and I was working in the mayor's office for Mayor de Blasio, which was a tremendous experience, right? And I tell this to all young people who want to get into government, who want to work on public policy issues. I'm like, start in local office, start work in mayor's offices, work in city councils, because I think that is actually where the work is being done across the country.
Absolutely.
I mean,
that's the ground level.
That's the ground level. Our Congress, our federal government, that's a whole other conversation. But the work is being done in cities, right? Because when you're a mayor, no one cares if you're a Democrat or Republican. You know why? Right. Because people want their trash picked up.
Right.
People want to make sure that their schools are good. Mm-hmm. Like, people see you every day, right? Like, you can't just be like, you can't be like Congress and be like, you know what, I'm gonna shut down the government, right? You can't shut down the city, right? The mayor can't just be like, yeah, we didn't agree on the budget deal, like, we're just gonna shut down the city,
right? Like, things have to.
When you shut down the city, what that means? Like, kids are not going to school, teachers are not being paid,
right?
Police officers are on the street, firefighters are not working. Like, you just can't. Garbages are not being picked up. Right. That can't happen, right? So, so that's why I tell like young people who want to get into government, go work in local office, local government, because that's where things are happening. So I went to work for the mayor's office, and I had a tremendous experience. And towards the tail end of that experience, COVID happened.
Okay.
And I think that completely. That taught me a lot about myself, and I think some of my most rewarding experience in work was during that time,
right? Because
I got a chance to lead a small team in terms of our COVID response, and I got a chance to work on the mayor's task force, so be the lead coordinator in response to COVID-19 and the effects of COVID-19 on racial equity. So I think for me that has been the highlight of my career,
right?
Just like being able to work on those issues at that time, because I mean I remember when COVID happened, we were just like we were trying to figure.
Yeah, we were all just trying to figure it out. So
what's happening?
So that's actually cool to hear that during COVID was like your shining moment, so to speak.
Yeah.
Right. So and you mentioned that you learned about yourself. Tell me a little bit about that. Like, what did you learn about yourself during COVID?
I learned that adversity brings out the best in me. I was so locked in and so focused on delivering for New Yorkers, on delivering for the communities that we served. It was just and I felt like it brought the best out of people. Because we were so it was a clear mission. The clear mission was to help New Yorkers, and people checked their egos at the door. It wasn't always perfect. People checked their egos at the door, but we got a lot done. So I think for me during that time, I learned a lot about adversity and how to respond to adversity.
Yeah. I think that's good because I think a lot of people run from adversity. I think there's a lot of great lessons that can be taught when you're kind of put under pressure. Even if you fail, even if you're met with adversity and challenge and it fails, you're still able to figure something out.
I was watching Coach K give a talk 2 days ago online, and he went to West Point,
right?
And which is like the number one school for leaders, I feel like. He said something that I'm always going to remember. He said, at West Point, they were taught failure is not a destination. Right. Failure is not a destination. And to add on that, Oprah Winfrey likes to say that failure is the way that the world is trying to redirect you or reorient you towards what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. Absolutely, because I mean, it'll show you who you are. Yeah. It'll really show you who you are. It'll show you your strengths, show you your weaknesses, and I'm a big believer in if I know my weaknesses, I now am able to figure out how to make them strengths. I know how to make them just not weaknesses, even if they might not be necessarily my top strength. Yeah. But at least I know, okay, I'm not good at this, so now I can put direct thought, direct action towards that.
Absolutely. No, I think failure allows you, like you said, to know what your weaknesses are, and to know what you're good at and what you're not good at. I think in today's society, we're so worried about success, failure, and even when you look at Instagram and social media, it's success. And I'm like, that's great, but no one goes through life with just success. Some of the most successful people in life failed first and learned from it.
Failed harder than what you see as success.
I try to, whenever I get a chance to talk to young people, is not to focus so much, not to think that life begins and ends on Instagram or social media.
Right.
Because people are not very honest about their successes and failures. People always put this, like, no one's gonna go on social media and be like, yeah, I got fired today. Like, look at me take a selfie about
that's
me cleaning my office.
So let me ask you this, right? So you said, as we both know, successful people, they experience failure. You're a successful person. Tell me about a time in which you failed.
This is something I've not. That's interesting. Definitely a few failures. So as grateful as I am that I went to UVA, UVA was not my first choice. Nor was UVA even my second choice. And this is going to shock people. I barely got into UVA. Not because I didn't do well in high school, just was very competitive. Think about it. So I wanted to go to Penn.
Okay.
And I applied early decision, and they denied me with absolute quickness. And then my second choice, I wanted to go to Georgetown because I wanted to study international relations.
Yeah.
And they waitlisted me twice. Like, I'm not even sure. I'm not sure what's worse, like being told no or being waitlisted twice. I'm like, that's like,
I don't know. That's tough. I might have to. I think being waitlisted twice might be worse.
It's like, you're good, but you're just not good enough. But we can't.
Right, and then do it twice.
That's pretty bad.
It's like the second time, make a decision.
And UVA, this is gonna shock people. I was actually waitlisted at UVA.
What?
Isn't that crazy? And I had to fight to get into UVA.
First off, I don't even think I know anyone at UVA that UVA was even their first choice.
Yeah.
First off, I mean, I didn't even think I was going to get into UVA.
Yeah, I got waitlisted at UVA. I remember actively fighting to get it. I got waitlisted at UVA. And so I think at that, what I learned is I respond well to adversity, because I got waitlisted and I said UVA is the place I want to go, and I fought to get it. Right. And I was like, I don't know a lot of people, but I'm going to figure out who works at UVA, and I'm going to make a case. Yeah. And that's why when I came to UVA, I was so focused.
Yeah, no, you were focused. That's one thing. You were focused, boy. I noticed that.
Because I knew I got a chance, and I'm not going to squander this.
Okay, so now, does that kind of relate back to, like, does that feeling where you said, like, you got in UVA, you fought for this, you ain't gonna waste a moment, because you ain't waste one moment. Did some of that kind of powered from just your dad?
Yes. I think it's like, I think a lot of it is, I think some of my drive and success is just it's my way of telling my parents, like, your sacrifices were worth it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wow.
Like, I think that's like, so that's why when I was at UVA, people were like, oh, you don't party, you don't do any of these things. Yeah, no. And I'm like, I want to party, but I'm like, I got parents back home. Like, the sacrifices they've made, I just can't screw up.
Yeah.
At all. So I was so afraid of screwing up that I just didn't. I was just like,
I was about to say, anytime I saw you were either on your way to some meeting, you were on your way to class, or you was an old AAA getting to work.
Yeah. So I think, but I think over time, you know what I've also learned? That you need balance.
Right.
Like, you need balance in your life, because there are certain things that you guys have that I never experienced, right? Some certain UVA memories, like, because at the end of the day, it's not all about just work.
Right.
Or career, or whatever it is. Yeah. It's also about human interaction, having life experiences. Absolutely. So I think as the older I'm getting, I'm trying to get better at, like, work-life balance, because I didn't have.
I'm really with you on that, because I mean, for me at UVA as an athlete there,
I can't imagine.
It was kind of the same thing, right? Yeah. So in UVA, as you know, there's a lot of traditions. Yes. There's a lot of streaking the lawn and standing in the rotunda and all that, and like, I didn't have time for none of that. Nor was I really interested.
Never did.
But to your point, where kind of being older now, displaced from UVA. Yeah. And obviously, it's bigger than just UVA traditions, but just in life, where it's like, you need that balance. Yeah. You need that balance of, okay, I work really hard. Like, when I'm head down television, I'm there. Yeah. But I do need to kind of step out of that, have not necessarily have fun, but whatever my version of fun is.
Yeah.
Like for me, it's just kicking back and watching TV. But you know, whatever that is, and like even defining that.
Yeah. And I think when I look back at my UVA experience, if I could go back and tell my 18-year-old self, I'll tell him a few things. One, just enjoy the moment, right? Just be focused, but try to enjoy the moment. Two, everything will work itself out. I think when you know that things have a way of working themselves out. I think I would have had a much better social and less stress college experience.
Right. So let's move on from UVA. Now we're at Brown, right? How did that come about? Like, because I know you studied foreign affairs.
Yes, I studied. So interestingly enough, when I was at UVA, I was set on becoming, getting my PhD in political science and being a professor. That was what I wanted to do. And one summer I went to these pre-PhD programs, and I did it, and I realized I was just miserable, and I realized that I don't want to spend my life reading, right? I wanted to be involved in the action.
Yeah.
I wanted to be involved in the policy making, and that's when I sort of switched career track, and I went to Brown to pursue a public policy degree.
Okay. And so with all of that, right, with all of these success, and now even moving on from Brown, well, what was the hardest part at Brown actually? Because Brown ain't no joke.
Brown was I think the hardest part at Brown, I was burnt out. Because I think I had given so much to UVA as a student.
Right. Yeah.
That when I got to Brown, I was burnt out. If I had to do it all over again, I think I would have taken it a few years off.
Really?
Because I was completely burnt out. I ended up doing really well, but I don't think I was as great of a student as I could have been.
Right.
If I wasn't burnt out.
Gotcha. Okay. So let me ask you this, right? So you know what burnt out feels like. You know what that feels like for yourself. How do you kick back and relax? Like, what does that look like for Fritz? What does that look like?
I think I'm a very I like going out to a good restaurant. Going out to a good restaurant, spending time. I think going out to a good restaurant, spending time with family, traveling when I can, reading. I love reading. I love reading autobiographies.
I was just about to ask, what kind of books you like reading?
I love reading autobiographies of leadership, people who've done really well in life, and who can talk about their struggles, their successes, their setbacks. And there's another thing I like to do, and this is like completely like weird, and I don't think there's many people that probably like to do this, but I love watching commencement addresses, college addresses. Like,
really?
People, and the reason I
was about to say why.
So the reason I love watching it is because it's oftentimes it's like really successful people who come speak.
That's very true.
And they come when they're invited, and when they speak, they talk about life, and they talk about what they've learned. And there's so many great messages about life, success, failure, relationship. And I trust me, you can ask my brother, I've watched maybe 300, 400 commencement address. Like, I just every year I go on my computer and I just watch them.
But I can imagine that probably helps you too, right? Like when you're basically filling your time, even your relaxation time, because that's like productive. Yeah. I in my mind, like where you're listening to these positive messages of, you know, life and success and how to deal with failure, X, Y, Z. I'm certain that kind of subconsciously just like sits with you.
Yeah. No. I think it's there's so much to take from watching and hearing these commencement speakers. And I think you're right. There's a lot I've internalized, and it helped, and it has helped me a lot. In my development.
That's awesome. So, outside of obviously what you do for relaxation, tell me a little bit about just your daily routine. So now let's fast forward. You're working now, special assistant at Robinhood. What is like a typical day? Like, do you have any type of, I guess, routines that kind of help you stay focused? Any routines that kind of, you know what I mean? Like anything that helps keep you motivated, whatever that may be. Just
So so here's usually my routine. I am up usually at 5:30 in the morning. I'm up at 5:30 in the morning. I'm at the gym at 6 o'clock. I do usually an hour at the gym. And while I'm doing an hour at the gym, I'm usually thinking about the day and my day at Robinhood and the things I have to work on and things like that. 7:30, 8 o'clock, that's usually when I get a text message from my CEO and we go back and forth on the briefing, and we might hop on a call and to talk about the day, and so I can brief him on the day and the things he has coming up. When I'm at the gym, this is my favorite morning show. I don't go a day without watching it. I watch Morning Joe on MSNBC every morning. It just helps me orient my day, get to know what's happening in the country. So I watch that when I'm at the gym. I do my briefing with my CEO usually around 7:30, 8 o'clock on the call, and then my day just begins. And I try to take a break, maybe I can, in the middle of the day, and I usually go on to 6, 7, 8 p.m. Because in the evening around 7 or 8 p.m. that's when I usually get all of that's when I put together the briefing for the CEO the next day.
So you really start your day at 5:30, which I think it's amazing. You touched on it a little bit before we were talking. It's like there's really no secret.
No, there's no secret. It's just brute work. There's truly no secret. I've gotten a chance to work for amazing people, and my CEO at Robinhood, who I serve, his name is Wes Moore. Just a remarkable individual, and his work ethic is second to none. I'm in awe of the energy that he has, and when you see people work like that, that inspires you, right? Because it's there's no excuse. So.
You have the double benefit of Robinhood's doing the work that is intrinsic to you. Plus you have these examples of brute force working hard. I'm going to create my success and everything like that.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Now there's no secret to it. There's no secret. It's just work. There's just no secret to success. Just you have to show up.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time. Oh, you want to talk about what I'm really good at, or one of my strengths is that I may not be as smart as you, I may not be as good looking or whatever it is, but I'm always going to show up.
Yeah,
I'm always going to be available, and I try to tell when I talk to high school students, if you're always available, you always show up, someone's going to hire you. People want people who are available, who show up, and who have a positive attitude.
Yeah, that's big time. Honestly, it's crazy too because these are all those small little messages that we learn when we're younger.
Oh yeah,
right? You learn. Oh, you should wake up earlier. Oh, you should work hard and be on time. All that type of stuff. But to what we were talking about earlier, that's just what it is.
Yeah,
if you want to be successful, if you want to get somewhere.
That's it.
It's really interesting just how the small details make the biggest differences.
And you have to surround yourself with winners.
Yes.
You have to surround yourself with people who win.
So let me ask you this: outside of your dad, who I know motivates you, obviously you've been around the Wes Moores and Mary DeBlasio's. You've been in circles with these titans, right? Is there anyone else that kind of motivates you? Let's say someone that you don't know, someone that you kind of just seen from afar.
Someone that I've seen from afar.
There's you see that person, you're yeah, okay. Like you mentioned Kobe, right?
Yes, Kobe was one of was my favorite player. I think the thing I loved about Kobe was the fact that he just didn't cheat the game.
Right.
He just didn't cheat the fans.
He sure didn't.
He just played and it was just fearless about the way he played basketball. So I think him, Michael Jordan. I mean, this is just another one. Just fearless. There's just so many people who do. Another person who just inspires me is Simone Biles.
Yeah.
Just, I mean,
Yeah.
her talent level is crazy, but her work ethic is just amazing.
Second
Second to none. So it's like when you watch, that's why it's like so important to surround yourself with people who win.
Yeah, that's big. So let me ask you this, and this will be the last question. So at Craft Your Dream, our 3 core values: you got clear vision, 100% effort, and consistency. Right? You mentioned that you got integrity and discipline from your pops. What are your personal core values? Like, what does Fritz stand for? Your life is done. Like, what do you want people to know you for?
One, and I keep talking about this. Fritz used all the talents that he had to better himself and people around him. He did not let any of his talents go to waste. I think if people can say that about me, regardless of the outcomes, I think I'll be very happy.
Gotcha. That's big. That's big time. Okay. I'm trying to think some more questions.
Go ahead.
You're like, man, that like honestly, I mean, and that's why I love doing this, bro, like talking with people, because everyone has these different backgrounds. And I think even with you specifically, right, when you deal with people that have dreams and goals, they always tie it to a position, right? They tie it to they put it to a place. Whereas with you, you're not necessarily tied to a place. You're tied to a mission, and that's to help people because you're fueled by your own personal experience. And I think that's what more people need to understand, that when you're going for your goals and dreams, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be an entrepreneur. You don't have to be, making a whole bunch of money, but it's about, your purpose. It's about your own personal mission and how you define success, how you define failure, and everything like that.
And my thing is like, there's no greater feeling than when you help someone see how their lives have changed. None. Right. No great feeling. And my thing is like, whether you're working in the private sector, whether you are in philanthropy, whether you're working nonprofit, government, whatever it is that you do, find time to give back and help people. Because I think at the end of the day, that's what matters. Like, how did you make people feel? And how did you use your resources and your talents to help others? Like, that's it. Like, other than that, there's nothing more to life.
Absolutely. And on that's a wrap. That's dope. We can end on that.
Thanks, brother.
But man, I appreciate you for real.
Thanks for coming all the way down here.
Of course, man. Once again, that is a wrap on episode 3 of Dreamer Talks. Appreciate you. Please like, comment, subscribe. This dude has a great story. So let me know. Please respond. Attend one of the Craft Your Dream events, and we'll see you in the next episode. Love for my